Sure. All right. So if the third row is finished with their discussion, I guess we can start. No, there's still someone coming in. Okay, so welcome to my presentation today about building a regional cloud infrastructure as a service cloud using open compute platforms. My name is Christoph. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ScaleUp Technologies. We're a hosting company and co-location provider based in Germany, based out of Hamburg, Germany, but we also have offices in Berlin. And we have been using open source for more than 20 years, but we have more and more focused on running cloud infrastructure in the last 10 or so years. And since 2015, that's where we started using OpenStack as our core, software infrastructure to offer our infrastructure as a service-based offerings. Since a couple of years, we are also offering a Kubernetes offering on top of OpenStack. And we're a small company. We're 15 employees at this point. And as I said, we have been using open source ever since. So basically, when I first heard about the Open Compute project 2.5 years ago, I figured, well, we've been using open source software all the time. Why has no one told me about open hardware ever? So that certainly got my interest. And it was actually a friend who told me about OCP and actually offered me some OCP gear to try out. So this is where it all started, and that's where we are today. We have become an OCP community member beginning of this year, and also a solution provider. And in my presentation, I want to focus a bit on why we, as a rather small company and not as a hyperscaler, decided to use open compute hardware and open source software to build our offering. So, well, as I said, our software stack has always been fully open source. However, hardware is mainly proprietary 19-inch hardware. But when we first got into testing out some OCP hardware, we discovered certain advantages that most of you may know about or not. So first of all, the hardware being open source, in my personal perspective, is maybe a bit underestimated at some points, because putting something out in the open and actually putting the specs of a server in the open makes it more transparent, and in my opinion makes it also more proven and more secure, because you have more people who can look at the specs, at the plans, and actually give you feedback compared to like a proprietary closed approach. Then second of all, and that's certainly interesting, it is really very interesting, is the energy efficiency of OCP hardware compared to traditional 19-inch hardware. So we did some tests with that, and we saw savings of up to 20% of energy comparing the same server, traditional 19-inch to OCP. And especially nowadays with extremely high energy prices, specifically in Germany, 20% of your energy bill is a lot of money. And third of all, the fact that OCP is more modular, easier scalable, and is using less material for the server itself is also interesting. So how did we go about it? We first started out with a small proof of concept setup to test the hardware, and we are not a hyperscaler. We don't have a hyperscale data center. We use traditional data centers with raised floors and air conditioning, and not really made for OCP. So one of the first things we did was we were trying to figure out how we could actually fit the servers into the data center, how we can do the power connections. Can we get the fully equipped racks through the doors into the data center, which luckily we were able to do. And we did some tests with that. Also, what we did is we dug a bit into the emissions of servers, and we tried to figure out whether we can save on scope 2 and scope 3 emissions by using OCP. So our POC test setup, that's how it looked like. We had 2 full racks with OCP servers, dual Xeon GPUs. They were actually refurbished systems coming out of IT Renew from Facebook. We have Facebook wedge switches as in a spine leaf architecture, 4x25G networking, fully flash storage, and on top of that we installed OpenStack, Ceph, and Kubernetes to run our infrastructure stack. And since the whole notion of using OCP is very different from traditional servers, we also automated the whole setup by using Ansible playbooks to, well, automate the whole setup from, I don't know, getting an operating system onto servers, installing OpenStack, configuring the switching stack, all the way down to configuring user accounts on our OpenStack infrastructure. So that's how the setup looked like. And as I said, we also went down this road or this path in order to see how we can improve us as a company to become more sustainable. So what we did is we did some testing on power consumption with those OCP servers. And before we did that, we actually did some research. And, well, the bad news is that there's hardly any research out there comparing OCP to a traditional 19-inch. The only thing that I could really find was a presentation done by SK Telecom in, I don't know, when it was 2017, 18, quite a few years ago, at OCP Summit, which is a Korean telecom provider. And so they actually did a comparison of traditional 19-inch servers to OCP servers in a traditional data center. And so the graphs that you see here at the side are from their presentation. And they basically compared how much energy the servers were using in different scenarios. So workload at 0%, so basically the servers idling, actually gives you the largest benefit. However, that's not really, that's not how you want to run your servers, right? But on full load with 100%, you can achieve somewhere between 15 to 20% on energy. Now, The other table to the left side that you see, those were actually our own benchmarks that we did, where we just took a 19-inch Dell server and an OCP server and compared it next to each other, so apples to apples, the exact same CPU, exact number of DIMM modules in the server, so everything the same, besides the fact that one is 19-inch, the other one is OCP. And those are the numbers that you see, and we could basically verify what SK Telecom did a couple of years ago, that under some stress, under some load in the server, we can save around 15 to 16% on the power consumption side. Now, this didn't take into account potential additional savings by having the central power supply in the rack, and it also didn't account for any additional savings that could be possible by potentially raising the temperature in the data center, because OCP servers can cope with higher temperatures than the traditional servers. We also looked into, with the help of my friend Jörn here in the first row, on what could be done by using on-chip liquids or water cooling with servers. And this is some statistics that he gathered in his setup. And so you see that with those, in this diagram, the yellow one is the air-cooled and the blue one is the water-cooled server. And you see, like on the server side, there's only like little additional savings possible on the server side, power-wise or energy-wise. But then on the data center level, if you don't have to have so much air conditioning in the data center itself, it actually saves you additional energy for running your cooling in the data center. So this is certainly something that is interesting for us as well, and that we will look into the going forward. We will try to build a POC to do that also in a data center. And this is just for your information purposes. And if you want to know more about it, you should talk to Block Heating about it. Since my title said building a regional cloud, I wanted to quickly talk about why we believe that the approach of having a regional cloud compared to using a hyperscale cloud is actually better from our perspective. There's a few reasons that I summed up here on this slide, which are basically taken from a white paper that was written by the SDIA, the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance, where we're also a member of, and we also worked on this paper together with other partners. One aspect is that there's basically there's no true European hyperscaler, right? I mean, all the hyperscalers are US-based companies and they dominate the market. So we believe that's, from a European perspective, that's not good enough, right? On the other hand, existing cloud providers are of a vertical nature. So they try to basically lock you in being a single vendor and offering you the full portfolio of solutions. We think that it makes sense to unbundle services. It's not a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket. So it actually makes sense, also from a competitive perspective, to unbundle services and have choice. A regional provider has certainly a few advantages over a multinational hyperscale provider, that a regional provider can cater to local regulations, can focus more on having lower latencies, data privacy issues, language barriers. I mean, there's certainly still a lot of countries, especially in Europe, where language barriers are a problem, and data privacy is also an issue. So we believe that a regional cloud can better cater to that. And in the end, the aim of using regional clouds is also that a regional cloud being fully open is also more sustainable. So our idea of doing that or fulfilling that is to build a regional cloud, and that's well, basically what we try to do is using OCP solutions, using refurbished hardware as much as possible, using green energy, even though this is a challenging part in Germany, and building a regional cloud with no vendor lock-in, with using open platforms and open APIs. So I would like to conclude with a short call to action. So we believe that even for small regional providers, OCP can be a really good help and a driver to reduce the overall CO2 footprint in data centers. And we believe that OCP should really, and the community as well as the foundation should really try to make OCP more available to well, anyone else, any hyperscalers, right? I mean, there's so many enterprises out there. If you look at Germany, I think, I don't know the exact statistics, but Germany is mostly made up of small and medium-sized enterprises. Like 98% of enterprises in Germany are small to medium-sized. And, well, if they were all to adopt OCP, I think this would also help the overall way to net zero future. And as a last outlook into the future, what we're trying to do as well, together with the community and with OCP, is we will open up an experience center in Berlin this summer. And with that, we are trying to do what we can do from our side to make, well, to tell more about OCP, especially in the German language countries, and make it more visible in the market. So with that, I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Christoph. Any questions?
I think we're almost over.
All right, I just want to highlight Christoph and his ability to take open standards and the OCP mindset and really accelerate it over the last 12 months. I mean, this is a person who really thought through, did the test analysis, and now is deploying, and now has over 3 solutions on the marketplace, cloud-hosted offerings, regionally focused, all running on OCP hardware. Some really good CapEx and OpEx stories for the local, regional customers. Thank you, Christoph.
Thank you.
Great. All right, we're going to move on to our next speaker, Jean-Paul.